Well, the federal party leaders have been making infrastructure promises during this campaign. The Conservative leader says he'll give priority to projects that cut commute times. The Liberal leaders accused some premiers of delaying infrastructure projects eligible for federal funding. And a new report from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities underscores the urgent need for new investments in aging infrastructure, from roads to bridges to libraries and arenas. Bill Karsten is the president of the FCM and joins me from Halifax, where he's a municipal councillor. Mr. Karsten, good to see you. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you very much, Peter, for the opportunity to speak to you.
You're welcome. How bad is the state of infrastructure in communities across this country?
Well, certainly the infrastructure report card that was released by FCM and several other stakeholders earlier this week doesn't hold any surprises for us. It's something that we have known for some time, that in fact you and your viewers may know that the municipalities in Canada do in fact have in excess of 60% of the infrastructure in Canada, and yet we get very, very small fraction of Canada's tax dollar. So the infrastructure report card shows things like 40% of Canada's roads and bridges are in either poor or very poor condition. It's something that, as I say, doesn't come as a surprise to municipalities across Canada, but certainly should be a wake-up call for federal leaders.
Municipalities already get $2 billion annually from the federal gas tax fund for infrastructure projects. So what more are you asking for? What more do you think cities need?
Yeah, thank you again for pointing that out, Peter. Number one, the gas tax transfer, I'm very quick to always point out, has no relationship to the actual sale of gasoline products. It's a formula that does flow out of general revenue direct to municipalities. So as you may recall, and your viewers may know, that in the March 2019 budget, the federal government did double that gas tax transfer for this year. And our message is just very simply this, that if it's good for this year, it's good for next year and the year after and the year after. Why do we say that? Simply that it is a great funding mechanism. It's a great tool that we use to build infrastructure in our communities. And yet every year there's so much infrastructure that doesn't get funded from the gas tax transfer. So what we're calling for in this election is simply to have the gas tax transfer doubled on a permanent basis. And as I say, simply if it makes sense this year, it makes sense for future years as well.
All right. The Liberal platform actually spells out concerns that some premiers are playing political games with infrastructure projects, delaying project approvals. Has your organization seen that? Or do you have a beef with provinces too that aren't delivering these projects more quickly enough? Many of these projects obviously benefit municipalities.
Yeah, the beautiful part about the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and working with the federal government, obviously we have direct access to them, and we do believe that our message is resonating. Why do I point that out? Is that when you're dealing with provinces and territories, you're going to get obviously a diversity and a mix of different opinions and different formats and different ways of doing business. And we are just simply saying, Peter, that regardless of what the programs are, municipalities need, number one, a seat at the table, and number two, in all decisions the federal government makes in the future, and number two, what we need is more direct, and watch these words, direct and predictable funding from our federal partners.
Right, I want to ask you about that, but I'm also asking, I mean, have your members personally seen projects delayed because provinces are playing political games with it? Projects that would benefit your communities?
So again, the fact that there is such diversity, yes, to answer your question directly, but I qualify it by saying that it always does flow at different speeds and different levels, depending on which province or territory we're talking about. So some do have a tendency to be able to get the funds out the door for municipal products or projects quicker than others. And there is a delay with some provinces in this country currently.
All right, and the case you would make, I think, is that, look, why do we need to be involved in that at all? Just, provide funding directly to municipalities by ensuring this money from, and I guess notwithstanding your your characterization of it, the gas tax fund, and make sure that stays doubled and permanent, and just make sure you deal directly with the municipalities and bypass the provinces. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it certainly sounds good to me. Thank you for framing it that way. I mean, local leaders are on the front lines of everything we do, even with climate change, not to go off subject, but to give another example. And absolutely, we're on the front lines. We're the order of government that Canadians do, in fact, have great respect and, in fact, do still trust based on recent polling through Abacus. And my message would simply be this to all party leaders, and I have passed that message on to each and every one of them, that municipalities are building communities and building better lives for Canadians, and subsequently direct, predictable funding is the way that we need to move in the future.
All right, Bill Karsten, you've made the message here, and
Thank you.
and party leaders will get it certainly. And thanks for your time today.
Peter, thank you very much for the opportunity to share that very important message with your listeners today. Thank you.